number 2 in the series, Kotlin for Java developers. Last time we talked about how to get started, the entry point of the program, and briefly about classes, variables, and constructors. This time I'm going to talk about functions and null, and particularly null safety in Kotlin. The setup I have is that I have this Java file, then I also have a Kotlin file, and when I run my program, it's going to run the Kotlin file if we run this program. So let's get started with functions. So a function in Java has the visibility modifier, private, protected, or public, and then we have the return value. Let's create a function. Let's create a simple function add. So we have the return value, visibility modifier, return value, function name, and then the parameters. So let's take in int B, and then let's just return the addition of a plus b. Like that. Perfect. And then we have our function. So if we want to do the same in Kotlin, we go over to our Kotlin file, and here we have our main function. So I could just create another function right here, but let's do the same thing as with main Java. So we create the add function in our main Kotlin file. So our main Kotlin class. So let's add some brackets to the main Kotlin file to get the scope, and then we create a function. So the function, to define a function, you say write fun, and then you add, and then you have the parameters. So it's a, and then colon the type, b colon the type, and then the scope. If you want that to have a return value, you put the return value right after the parameters, you do colon, and then it should return int. To have the visibility modifier, you just put it here, so you can have private or protected. By default, the functions are public. So our add function should return the addition of a plus b. Okay, so now we have the same function add as we had in our Java file. What you can also do in Kotlin is write this a bit shorter. So instead of doing the scope, you can just say get rid of the return and everything, and you say equals to a plus b. This would be the exact same thing as before. And since the Kotlin also has type inference, it actually knows that a plus b, if a is an int and b is an int, the sum is also an int, so you don't need to say what type the return is. You can just do equals to a plus b. And this is a parameter hint from IntelliJ. If you want to turn that on, if it's not showing for you, you can go into, if you go to IntelliJ, or you just press IntelliJ preferences, and then you go into editor, general appearance, and then you have this option show parameter name hints. Press configure, and select your language, and use Kotlin, and then down at the bottom we have the options, and you select whatever you want, and then press OK, and they should show up. Good. So that's a simple function in Kotlin. Next we go into null safety, or null. So if you're familiar with Java, you know there's null, and for example, if we have a private, let's do a similar, we do a string concatenation function. So we do concat string a, string b, and that should return a plus b. So it just concats these two strings. Now we want to call this function string concat. Let's call it here concat a and b. That's fine. So let's say someone does in here some debugging and does it, try to print a dot char at 0. Just an example. So this would work fine for now. But if someone changed this a to null, this will also compile fine, and then in runtime when we call concat, it would actually break and say a is null. So you try to call something a null, we get a null pointer exception and the program crashes. So how does this work in Kotlin? Well, I talked about variables last time, but I didn't go over it I didn't go over it in detail. But let's create the same function here. We have fun concat, we called it, with a string and b string, and then we want to return a plus b. So in Kotlin, when we try to call this function, let's create an instance of our main Kotlin, sorry, and then we try to call concat with a and b, like that. It works fine, and then we try to change a to null. What happens now is that it will complain and say that null cannot be a value of non-null type string. So all the types here, all our variables are non-null. So if you say that a is a string, it has to be a string, it cannot be null. However, if you would like it to be null, you would have to put a question mark after it. Now a can be null. So let's try that out. Now a can be null. This string addition still works. It will just be null plus b, and strings, you can add a null to a string in both Kotlin and Java. But let's do our example from our previous, where we actually print a dot char. Let's see, we have some similar function in Kotlin. We can actually do, let's change it back just so we know. String char, no, let's do capitalize just for safety or the simplicity, and then we say return a plus b, and we say that we return a string. So that works, but now it complains down here that it's non-null. We put the question mark after it, and now our program will not actually compile, since the print line here, we do a dot capitalize, and the dot here, if a is null, it would crash, but even before we compile, or in compile time, it will complain that a can be null, so you can't call this function. So how would we call that function then? Well, we can use a few different tricks. We can do a question mark capitalize, and the question mark means that it's, if the left hand side is null, we won't do the right hand side. So here we say a question mark. If a is null, it would just return null. If a is not null, it will do a capitalize. So if we send in null, it will print null. If we say in a, it will actually print capital A up here. So that's one way. You can also do it as you would be used to in Java, and say if a is not equal to null, you run this function. Kotlin is pretty smart about how it compiles this, because now it checks if a is not equal to null, and then we can do a dot capitalize. We can also do change the check and say if a equals to null, we will actually move this down here, and then we'll say if a is equal to null, we'll actually return and say just fail. And now we are allowed to do this down here, and we are allowed to do that because Kotlin says that we are checking if a is null, and if a is null, we're actually returning the function, and then it's okay to do this down here, because this function would have returned if a would have been null. So Kotlin knows that down here that a is not null. So it's a smart cast to Kotlin string. So it's now it's a non-null variable. So just to see that it works the way we want it to, if we do a dot something else. Oops, sorry. Let's do, say that we did this print line a is null. So now you can see from the red highlight here, we didn't return in this if statement, so now a can actually be null down here, and it won't let us compile this. So that's a little bit about null safety. So all the variables you have they are either the type and then they can't be null, or they're the type question mark and then they can be null. I can go more into details about how we can solve these different things later on and how we can use this to our advantage, but that will probably be a later episode. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or corrections, or if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and use the comments to communicate with me. But that's it. See you in the next one. Bye bye.